Oh, I can do without. I can do without the people in the video store.
Which ones?
All of them.
This is Massive Late Fee with Mike and Mark.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Massive Late Fee. My name is Mark. With me, as always, is my co-host Mike. How you doing, Mike?
Not too bad, Mark. How about yourself?
Good. We've had probably more than a good week here today. For those of you who have the ability to read, I assume most of you, you probably already know it's spoiled because I'm going to title it a certain way. But we have a special guest today. Probably, I would say, no offense to any of the. No, I don't want to say that. I mean, no offense to anybody else we've interviewed, but probably the biggest guest we've ever had on the show. At least you'll find out how big of a fan I am. But anyway, so without further ado, star of stage and screen, big and small, pretty much everywhere, a ubiquitous force in entertainment. I contend, if you look at the filmography, responsible for more laughter on television than maybe anyone in the past 40 years. It is Mr. Ed Begley Jr. How are you, sir?
Very good. You're being way too kind, but you're young and I'll accept it at face value. You're very sweet to an old man.
No. I'm a huge fan. So when I was...
Yeah, I was just... I'm sorry, Mark.
No, good. No, good.
Yeah, I was just brushing up for the show and credits on IMDb. Basically, every good show in the last 20 years, you're in.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. You're basically... If any show where you're like a Swiss Army knife of an actor, whether it's comedy or drama or whatever. If somebody needs something done really well, then they call Ed Begley Jr. That's my opinion.
That's about the nicest thing anybody said. It's very clever, a Swiss Army knife. I really like that. I haven't heard that before from anyone. Very, very clever. Who was that? Mike or Mark that said that? I didn't get to that.
Oh, it was Mark. The clever one was Mark.
Very funny, Mark.
But
and I'll certainly agree that I'm lucky. I don't know how I got to be on Arrested Development and Better Call Saul and Bless This Mess and St. Elsewhere and all the other shows, Boston Legal. I've just been on good shows, 6 Feet Under, for decades, and somehow it continues. I don't know why they hire me, but they do when I show up.
Mary Hartman too. That's one that's not talked about a ton anymore. Probably tragically, very like Riley funny show, great show.
Yes, I agree.
But when I was young, I remember my parents would watch St. Elsewhere, every week, and it was one of those things where back in the 80s, you just watched what your parents watched if you were watching TV, because there was one TV in the house, and whatever your parents were watching, you watched. And I watched the show, and I kind of I really gravitated towards your character, Victor Erlock, and William Daniels, and that relationship. I liked William Daniels a lot, and then I watched 1776 with him and some other stuff, and you as well, with all the other things that we've mentioned and will mention that you've been in. But I liked that relationship a lot on that show. I just remember growing up and watching it, but I didn't remember a ton of episodes or what happened in episodes necessarily. So I don't know how much of this you saw. I know you liked some of my tweets way back when, but since it's on Hulu, everybody out there, I've said this before, but everybody should go watch St. Elsewhere on Hulu. Whenever I have a little bit of downtime, I live tweet the show, and I basically just watch it and write the things that are going on Twitter. But I have incredible talent on that show. Would you say, is that the most talented, both behind the scenes and in front of the scenes cast that you've ever been a part of?
Yes, it was that. In front and behind the camera, yes. It was Bruce Paltrow, it was Tom Fontana, it was Josh Brand and John Falsey at the beginning, John Nacius, Mark Tinker, It was this incredible writing team that was just unbelievable. And then we had great directors like Mark Tinker again as a director. The directors come and guest, and Denzel Washington and David Morse and Howie Mandel and Christina Pickles and Bonnie Bartlett and Bill Daniels and Ed Flanders. The list goes on. Great talent in front and behind the camera, and I was lucky to be there.
Yeah, for sure. And the great Norman Lloyd, of course, still going strong.
I love that man. I still see him.
Yeah, still going strong today. It's remarkable.
Yep.
But
It's a force of nature, that one.
I watched that show, and it connects me with what it was like being there with my kids and everything, or my parents and everything. Being a kid. I feel like, and this is part of my crusade. We'll talk about your crusade very, very soon. But part of my crusade is for some reason that I don't understand, and I don't know if times have. That's the thing I can't say that times have changed too much, because I look at some of the episodes of St. Elsewhere, and the guest stars, obviously. Tim Robbins guest stars as a terrorist.
Tim Robbins, I know.
Yeah, so they're
Ray Liotta.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And they talk about racism. It talks about terrorism. Things like that are still relevant today. And I just obviously incredibly acclaimed in its time, in my opinion, and I think the opinion of most people looking back on television. One of the greatest shows ever. But I don't hear a lot of people talk about it, today. And it's readily available on Hulu. Like I said, I try to get, my goal is to get as many people to watch the show as possible. Why do you think that it's not, you hear people talk about, The Sopranos or The Wire. Obviously, those are more recent shows. But, like Cheers.
Very good shows, by the way. I got to jump in and say how much I do love those shows. Mm-hmm. Those are fine shows, too, of course.
Absolutely. But, I mean, before ER, before, anything like that, I think just a masterclass in how to juggle a bunch of different characters, different storylines, from week to week. 1 week, you would be kind of showcased. 1 week it might be, Howie Mandel. The next week it might be William Daniels, Ed Flanders, and so on. And just a masterclass in how to do that and weave all those storylines together. Why do you think that more people don't talk about the show now? Or am I wrong? And am I just in the wrong circles and people do talk about it?
No, I think people don't talk about it as much, of course, because there's been some other wonderful shows since. ER was a great show. Mm-hmm. Grey's Anatomy is a great show. These are wonderful medical shows. And ours was just a long time ago. It was 82 through 88. So those 6 years happened decades ago. So I guess people, and I don't blame them, they're dealing with more recent material. And but it was a fine show for its time. 82 through 88, we did, I think 150 episodes or something like it. We did a lot of wonderful shows. They hold up very well. The writing, directing, acting is still very good in my opinion. And I was just lucky to be part of it and think of it fondly every minute since.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that you've been a part of for quite a long time, probably, 40 years or more, is your devotion to the cause of conservationism, fighting against climate change. Obviously, huge hurdles that still need to be overcome. And, it's, I think, I don't want to speak for you, Mike, but I think the general consensus of us is, it's the fight of, our lifetime. This is.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, issue number one, because you don't protect the survival of the entire planet, and everything else kind of pales in comparison to that. Is it like, and as I said, going back into the 70s, before a lot of people were in on this, you were like step one of championing environmental causes. Obviously, I think more than maybe
you're way ahead of the curve on this subject. For
yeah,
sure.
and I think maybe more than anyone else,
You're very kind.
I think maybe more than anyone else, you really exemplify a lifestyle of trying to eliminate as much of your carbon footprint as possible. Is it frustrating to you to have labored as long as you have and to have not seen more progress on this issue?
There are a lot of areas that I find frustrating that we haven't gone farther, but I'm always, it's always important to me to emphasize the good news too, to focus on that.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about it, when I started in 1970, we had this horrible, horrible choking smog in LA, and I lived the first 2 decades of my life in smoggy LA, so I knew it was real. I breathed it every day. So from 1970 to date in LA, in the LA area, that region, we have 4 times the cars, millions more people that have fractions of smog. The air is so much better, and it's even better still now because nobody's driving much, or
Right.
factories, people aren't working, making all that pollution. But long before this pandemic hit, the air has been a lot cleaner in LA because of all the stuff that we did. So there's some good news too, and that's why I still am able to maintain hope about the other things we have not addressed, like climate change and the plastic in the ocean,
Mm-hmm.
all that problem. I think we can do it because we've done it in other areas like the air pollution in LA.
Yeah, I read a very interesting article from an environmental scientist was quoted in it, and he talked about one of the silver linings of the pandemic being a lot of air pollution simply isn't going into the atmosphere right now because people are staying at home, they're driving less, not as many factories are running. He said, obviously, this is not the circumstance that we would want it to happen to, but I think what it highlights, and this was very interesting to me what he said too. He said I think it should highlight to everyone that human beings do have an impact on our environment, and that when we make changes, especially if they're drastic enough changes, things can turn around relatively quickly. And I thought that was, I mean, that's obviously. Obviously there are people out there that, might still question climate change and things like that. And I thought that was a very like interesting proof of it. That, here's proof human beings do have, a large impact on our environment, obviously. But here's the evidence of it. And I thought that was, maybe that's something that can come out of some good that can come out of this is we can show this to people and maybe try to change some minds. Obviously, moneyed interests are a somewhat of a problem sometimes in environmental causes, unfortunately. But I like you said, I keep hope as well. I have young children. You mentioned your daughter. I have young children as well, and our job obviously is to make the world as good of a place as it can be, for them coming up. Mike is same way, has young children as well. But I wanted to say basically that we appreciate, and I don't know how often you hear it or what, but I wanted to say that we appreciate the work that you and everyone else does, to try to make this world a better place. There's an old Greek saying that says, the world is a great place when a old man plants a tree whose shade he knows he will never see. And I think for environmentalists, I think
beautiful.
I think that's a you guys are trying to affect change to help everyone else, generations down the line, and I think I can't thank you enough for it.
Well, it's very kind of you to say that, and I do everything in my power to make sure there's something left for my kids, 2 of whom are quite grown now, and I have grandkids as well in my case, and so I'm trying to do what I can so something remains for them, somewhat like what I grew up with.
Mm-hmm. Mike, do you have any?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, do you have anything you want to say?
Yeah, I would say if somebody asks, "What's one small thing I could do that will positively affect the environment?" Do you have an answer to that? Do you know? I mean, just everyone, I'm sure, could do something to have some positive effect on this.
Start small and build. That's what I did in 1970. I wanted solar panels and a fancy electric car. I couldn't afford anything like that, so I did the cheap and easy stuff I could afford. And there's many choices in that category today. Put some weather stripping around your doors and windows, get an energy saving light bulb. If you like it, get some more, put up an energy saving thermostat, ride a bike if weather and fitness permit, take public transportation if it's available near you, and running, given the pandemic now and safe, now that we can't get in close proximity. But this too shall change, and we'll be able to take public transportation in meaningful ways again. So there it is. Light bulb, thermostat, weather stripping, bike riding, public transportation. Turn the thermostat down in the winter and up in the summer so you save energy. Turn the lights off when you leave the room. Put your unnecessary items on power strips so when you go to sleep or you leave the house, you can save all that energy. All those things that you think are off, like your TV, it's not really off, because it's still drawing power just being plugged in. To put all that stuff on power strips, and maybe 1, 2, 3 of them for a whole household or a large apartment, and you'll have everything, turned off, really turned off when you leave the house to go to sleep, and it'll save you a lot of money. So there's lots of ways you can do it. Start small and build.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Do you think now that people are starting to understand the financial damages caused by climate change, like the increase in hurricanes, droughts, that sort of thing, do you think that might possibly change people's minds, or do you think people are just so bullheaded that they really have to be slapped in the face with the truth of the situation?
I think there's some people that have begun to get it now that there's more and more evidence. There's always been hurricanes and always will be, but they're stronger and they're more frequent. The insurance companies have taken note. The Pentagon has taken note. When you have entities like that, like the Pentagon and the insurance industry, and they say climate change is real, I think it's time to pay attention. When you see water rising on the streets of Miami, I think you should begin to see that it's real. Yeah, so we've got some real challenges. Some people, it's going to take them a long time to be convinced, but people will get it when they get it. But we all have to do something and urge people to do something for other reasons even. Let's, forget about climate change. Let's do make some green choices to clean up the air in our cities, to lessen our dependence on foreign oil, and to put money in our pockets. Let's do it for those 3 reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, every one of those is a great reason for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point too. Obviously climate change is incredibly important and an incredibly important issue, but not the only environmental issue that exists. And sometimes, the water, as you mentioned, with the plastics in the ocean and everything, that stuff can get short shrift sometimes because of climate change gets a lot of headlines. So people shouldn't forget about that either. There are other issues that we can do things about. But moving on to a little more entertainment type questions, I suppose. So real quick, I want to ask your permission before I do this. Mike and I, every week, we play a game called the Parents Guide game. And what we do is we go to imdb.com, the International Movie Database, or Internet Movie Database, right? That's what it is. And we look up a movie in the Parents Guide, and then we give each other clues, starting with, obscure clues, getting to more and more specific clues until one of us can guess what movie we're doing. Sir, and by the way, I guess I should have asked this before. What should I call you? Is sir fine, or should I call you?
Just call me Ed.
Okay,
I didn't. Me Ed.
All right, that's good. Would you like to play the game, the Parents Guide game?
Absolutely, let's do it.
Okay, so like I said, I'll give you a clue. You can guess after each clue if you want. What movie it might be, or you can just say pass. Or if you think of something incredibly funny, that's obviously good for the show too. All right, so under alcohol, drugs, and smoking, adults are drinking wine and some smoke cigarettes. What movie do you think it is?
Adults are drinking wine and some smoke cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
And this is let's see. The kids are all right. I'll take a wild stab.
No, good guess, but no. Let's see. This is still in alcohol, drugs, and smoking. A child is seen drinking from a bottle of wine and is drunk. He then vomits from being drunk.
I'm trying to think of a movie. Let's see. Not Breakfast Club, is it?
Nope, no, not Breakfast Club. Let's see.
No.
Let's go to...
I'm not getting a picture yet of this. I'm taking wild stabs in the dark.
No, that's what we do too. A lot of times Mike and I will have rote movies that we just go to and just guess right off the bat, because it's very vague at the beginning. Under violence and gore, a dead mouse in a casserole dish, brief but icky.
Dead mouse in a casserole dish. What?
What'd you say?
Did you say a dead mouse in a casserole dish?
Yeah, dead mouse in a casserole dish, brief but icky.
Breathe. But
Yeah,
I can't hear the last part of that. I'm sorry.
brief. So it's not on screen very long, but icky.
Oh yeah, quickly. Breathe. Breathe. It's sticky.
But yeah, dead mouse in a casserole dish.
It's not. Oh boy, I can't think of the name of it. It's not. Is it an animated movie? Am I allowed to ask that?
No, it's not animated.
Okay.
Next,
That's not what I'm thinking of.
next clue: a woman blows up a house, which is a pretty big jump from a dead mouse in a
Oh
casserole
wait a
dish.
minute! You She-Devil? You're getting close to home here.
You got it. You got it. It is the use.
Oh my God! I can't believe it took me that long.
It is the you starring 1989 film with Roseanne She-Devil.
That's funny. That's sad, but I couldn't get into.
I thought that would be an interesting one to do.
That's really funny.
I was gonna do under sex and nudity. One of them is Ed Begley Jr. runs after Roseanne wearing a towel, and a brief moment, his towel slips, and we see his rear end. That was gonna be one of the later ones that I read you.
I do Anderson back in the '80s, so I just wanted to work in film. So that's the good.
One of the you mentioned it earlier, but one of the shows that you're on that Mike and I have talked about quite a bit and enjoy quite a bit is Better Call Saul, the spinoff of Breaking Bad. Obviously, you played Cliff Main, the law partner that butted heads with Jimmy McGill a couple times before Jimmy finally got him to fire him. What was it like working with Vince Gilligan, working with Bob Odenkirk? What's it like being on that set?
It's just a dream come true. I was such a fan of Breaking Bad, and then a fan of that first season of Better Call Saul. When I got the call from Vince to be in the show, I was just over the moon. It was just a dream.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead, Mike.
Mark and I are kind of on the fence about this. I think both Mark and I now like Better Call Saul more than Breaking Bad, which is kind of a shock to both of us.
Yeah.
Do you have an opinion? I mean, I obviously you're on one of the shows, but do you have a preference, or do you just kind of? They're both brilliant, obviously. It's just so Better Call Saul, it's like a
I don't want to
slower
compare
burn.
Rembrandt I'm not going to try to have a
Yeah.
competition between, Ringwald and Picasso. I mean, they're just both brilliant shows, different, wonderful,
just
some of the
amazing.
same characters, of course, but they're both so amazing, so different, wonderful. Breaking Bad is TV history. It's, in my opinion, the best show ever. Well, now I have another best show ever, which is Better Call Saul. So if I choose which of my kids I like the most, it's not possible.
Right.
Right. When you're on a show like that, or as previously mentioned, St. Elsewhere 1600, does it feel any different than maybe a show that's not as critically acclaimed, or not as, I guess, not as doesn't have as big of a legacy? Does it feel any different, or is it kind of like, do you feel like it's just another job to you? Is it? I'm kind of interested in the whole, like, as someone who's been in so many different films and TV shows. I mean, is it still exciting? Do you still get the love of hopping out of bed to act, or is it sometimes kind of like a drudgery? How does that all work?
I'm in a fortunate position. I don't have to do any show that I don't want to do that doesn't excite me. So I hear from Better Call Saul. Of course, I'm going to jump at a Young Sheldon. I always say yes to that. All these other shows that call upon me, I'm just lucky to be able to pick and choose. And there's some great shows being done out there. There'll probably be others in the future that I'll want to do. And to be working in any industry for 50 years, 52 years actually now, coming up on 53 this July, it'll be 53 years I've been working in TV and film. Worked 53 years as a used car salesman or a storm door, salesman. You count yourself lucky to work in any industry over half a century. So I'm blessed, and I know.
For sure. Oh, and that's obviously a testament to your talent as well. You're a very humble man, but I mean, you are a brilliant actor as well, which we've seen multiple instances of.
Yeah,
Well, I'm more lucky than talented, but I'll go with what you say. Thanks.
I do a bit of writing. I mean, I have had some books published, nothing huge or anything like that. But I talk to friends of mine who, are sort of interested in writing, but they're not real writers necessarily. Like, they're not writing, on a daily basis. And they always ask me, they're like, oh, I wait for this inspiration to hit, or I wait for that inspiration to hit, or whatever. And I tell them, I said, writing has more in common with digging a ditch than it does like anything else. You just, you sit there and you just write. You just work. You just, you sit down for an hour or whatever, and you just work. Do you find that that's similar in acting? Do you find that it's it's like that, or is it
like a craft kind of? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Like it's obviously it's referred to as a craft.
Sure, right. But do you find it has more in common with putting the work in and doing that, or is it different than that?
No, it's putting in the work. It's learning the lines, which can be drudgery, but you just do it. So I have my way of learning lines, and you get that out of the way, then you can work on building the character.
Mm-hmm. It's funny that you just real quick before I let Mike continue. You talk about how you're on Young Sheldon, and of course, sometimes I'll think, like as I was going through your IMDb, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, he is on that show. I remember, because I remember specifically scenes you're in. You're very I never thought about this before. It just occurred to me now, but you're very memorable. You're very memorable presence on screen, but. It just occurred to me that
you're very kind.
It just occurred to me, like I said, you're on Young Sheldon, which is a show I watch with my kids, and it's interesting to me. I watched you on St. Elsewhere when I was a kid with my parents, and now my kids watch you on Young Sheldon with me, which I think is a great show to watch with your family. By the way, for anybody out there that's got kids, it's a great show to watch with your family. But yeah, it's interesting how, like you said, 53 years almost. You cross a lot of generations. Do you feel that fans of yours out there, or people that enjoy your work, do you feel that it is like that it crosses lots of different generations?
I'd like to think that it crosses different generations. You know, as a man who has grandparents, grandkids, I just, I like to do shows that attract a young audience and people my age, people who are middle-aged. So I'm just lucky to be part of all these shows that cater to those different demographics.
Absolutely, absolutely. Mike, you want to? I'm sorry, I kind of interrupted you. You want to continue?
Oh, you're fine. Yeah, it happened. Going back to St. Elsewhere, I'm just curious. As an actor, are you as vested in like the storyline as some of the fans? Because it's sort of a controversial finale for the series of that, where the whole thing, at least to my understanding, is kind of like in a snow globe. Does that bother you at all, or do you? I mean, how vested are you in where the sort? I mean, does that kind of a loop? Does it throw you? Are you? I mean, obviously you work with a lot of masterful, TV makers, producers, writers, actors. I mean, do you kind of? I mean, you just kind of trust them with where it's going, or does anything like that ever kind of?
I try to stick to my my chosen field, which is acting, and I don't tell them how to write the scripts, and they usually don't tell me how to do my character.
Sure.
Mean, they'll give me notes if there's something they want a little bit different. If I respond to it, I'll do it. But I always do it because it's always a good idea with the kind of people that I'm working with. They rarely have bad ideas. They usually have very good ideas. But between you and I thought that was a very odd way to end the 6 years. It wasn't much of a crowd pleaser, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, that's
the agreement on Autistic Kids. So that was an odd choice, but the show was great, and they were never known for being timid writers. They went out with a bang and did something that was quite bold, so that to be applauded for that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that's certainly a more memorable ending than say, a couple characters get married or that sort of thing, as you often.
Right. It's funny. I wonder if you're aware of this. There's I can't even remember.
Is it the Fontanaverse they call it?
I believe so. Yeah, something like that. Basically, the theory is that every television show that's ever existed, basically, or almost all of them, exist in Tommy Westfall. I believe that's his name.
Tommy. Yeah.
Tommy Westfall's mind, because they take characters that are they connect
up here in other mediums.
Yeah, they connect characters that.
Oh yes, the Steve Allen show, and yes, and Mary Tyler Moore, and yes, I see what you're saying. They do. It's a very good point.
Yeah, so
I thought of that. That's funny.
Yeah, it's on the internet, and there's a big this guy went through, it's a huge project. Guy went through tons of TV, and yeah, I mean it's like you said, the Mary Tyler Moore show I think's on there, Star Trek's on there, like basically everything, any big show of the past 50 years or so is on there. It's interesting idea, but yeah. The show that you're on currently, or one of the shows that you're on currently, I don't know. You were on recently, Better Call Saul. Mike and I talked about that episode.
Yeah,
actually.
that was a great episode.
So I don't know if you'll
Thanks.
We'll see if you'll be on in the future as well. But one of the show that you're on right now, Bless This Mess. I have my wife and I watched the show. We've seen probably maybe 6 or 7 episodes of the show because we were late to come to the show. When we heard, because we're big fans of Dax Shepard and Kristen Bell, and when we heard that he was getting another show, we wanted to watch it and everything. I wonder. Like I said, we've only seen like 6 or 7 episodes of the show because we have roughly 25 shows that we're currently watching right now, or in some, whether it's on Netflix or Hulu or whatever that we're watching. I wonder, the show's fantastic. Everyone in it is great. Do you think, and my wife and I would love to watch it more, we just, like, anytime we've got a little bit of downtime, we're like, okay, we're going to watch Bless This Mess now. Do you think, obviously streaming has made it easier in certain ways for people to get scripts out there, people to get shows out there, because everybody needs content. But do you think that it hurts sometimes in some ways? Because Bless This Mess is obviously traditional type sitcom on a network. And if those other streaming services didn't exist, my wife and I would have seen every episode by now. And, it would be, basically everyone would be watching it. Do you think that sometimes network shows and more traditional type shows get hurt because of all the diversity and entertainment of streaming?
And the novelty of it too. I mean, it seems like, I could watch this on my phone. It's a little more difficult with the big networks to do that.
Right.
Yeah, the streaming has altered the landscape entirely, the network TV, and they continue to, eat away at the market share the network TV has. I don't know if there's any end in sight, but because you can watch things anytime, you have such a huge array of choices with streaming services like Hulu and Netflix and Amazon Prime. So I think you have to offer something very special if you're going to do a network show. You have to really get it just right. There's no room for error because people are going to go over to streaming. It's greatly changed the landscape, and it's affected the way we work. There's very different financial ramifications to doing a show that's a streaming show and doing a network show. So people are adjusting. I continue to adjust, but I'm very happy to have a show on the network, and I've enjoyed working for some of the streaming services as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Mike, I'll tell you this real quick. So one of our favorites, one of our favorites is on the show. You're familiar with the movie Jackie Brown, right, Mike? And we've talked about it quite a bit.
I love Jackie Brown. It's a great movie.
Yeah. So Pam Grier is in the show. Bless This Mess.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
And Pam Grier and Ed Begley Jr. have this flirtation, right? Which I think is a great choice because one of them is a sex symbol from yesteryear, who frankly absolutely still has it, and the other one is Pam Grier. So
oh, how dare you!
So I think no, she still has it too, obviously. But
Pam Grier, I would watch Pam Grier in anything. She's amazing.
Oh, absolutely.
She's the best. She is timeless. She's just so wonderful. That's a funny joke. I hadn't heard that. That's very funny.
Is there anybody you've wanted to work with that you haven't yet had the opportunity to do so, director or actor or even writer-wise?
Great question.
I haven't worked with Elizabeth Moss or Daniel Day-Lewis. I haven't worked with, I haven't worked with Hugh Jackman. I haven't worked with, there's quite a few actors. I haven't worked with Martin Scorsese, the director. I haven't worked with Bob De Niro. I haven't worked with.
Oh, you would have been great in The Irishman.
Yes, absolutely.
Wait, say that again.
The Irishman.
You would have been amazing in The Irishman. I mean, you could have been any number of roles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I'm lucky with the people I have worked, and if I get to work with some of those people I mentioned, that would be fantastic. But I'm very happy with what I've got.
I'm surprised the list is that small. You've been in so many projects.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, you're very prolific. Is that still? Do you still have as much of a drive now? To take on different roles, to take on different challenges, as you did when you were younger. Have your priorities changed or shifted any? Because it doesn't seem like you've slowed down in any way.
Well, I imagine too that now that you're able to, pick your projects, you probably are able to have a more artistic, expression and be in just what you like, as you said earlier.
yeah, I tend to stay home more now. I like to stay home. I like to putter in the garden. I like to, fix things around the house. And so I'm not one of those guys that has to be out working all the time. If there's something exciting that I feel I can do, something that is within my pay grade, that, within my skill set, I'll do it. Otherwise, I just as soon stay home. And, I'm very comfortable staying home. I certainly am staying home a lot these days, and I'm not going crazy. I haven't gotten stir crazy yet. I like it at my house, and it's no punishment for me to be quarantined here, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
That's it's kind of tricky for me because my kids were just, they miss their friends, that sort of thing. But yeah, it's rough.
Yeah. I've mentioned this before. I feel very
a lot of hardship out there for a lot of people. I feel bad.
Oh yeah, I could have it way worse.
People, but I'm very fortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah, us too. I'm fortunate that I could work through telecommunication, that sort of thing. Yeah. Speaking of gardens, you've been a vegan? Have you been your whole life, or is that one of the incremental steps you were referring to earlier?
No, I became a vegetarian in 1970. I stopped eating meat back in 1970, and then I've occasionally, in those years since 1970, had periods of time where I ate fish, but I converted to being a vegan in 92, and I've been vegan nearly all the time since 92, and I feel very good. I'm 70 years old and in pretty good health, so I'm doing something right.
Yeah, do you think that's another big environmental impact? Obviously the meat industry requires so much more water and resources to, grow, a serving compared to, vegetables and fruit, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's much more efficient. Less land and water and energy to grow a pound of broccoli than it is a pound of beef. So, and of course, beef has more protein in it than broccoli. I understand that, but there's lots of vitamins and minerals, other things you need in broccoli. And, I eat a lot of like soy protein and other plant protein, and that's very efficient protein to make by the amount of land and water and energy it takes to do so.
Yeah, certainly. I was just going to say,
with the subsidies to the meat industry, I mean, a pound of hamburger does not actually cost what it costs at the store. So, I mean, it's, again, a financial thing. It's, if they're worth these subsidies, I don't know how much a pound of meat would be. I've heard estimates as high as like 10 to 20 pounds, or $10 to $20 for a pound. Sorry.
I thought you were just talking about English pounds, Mike. You were just converting for everyone real quick.
And there's a lot of subsidies for the dairy industry too. A lot of milk subsidies. So
of course.
The kind of thing that really alters the price point.
Yeah, it's, Thomas Jefferson obviously, well, I guess I shouldn't say obviously, but Thomas Jefferson used to say that the ideal citizen was the small American farmer, which in 1780, 1800, may have been the case. But as the population grows and everything, and, most of these farms now are not run by small families, they're run by giant corporations. Obviously that has changed quite a bit, and the methodology of how things are done has changed quite a bit, which can open up to certain diseases and things like that. I just wanted to add real quickly too, in case anybody has it, you kind of mentioned it a little bit, Ed, in case anybody has a misconception, because I do a decent amount of weightlifting and stuff like that, that you can't get enough protein from plant-based sources. Greg Doucette, who's everyone should check out on YouTube, a great fitness YouTuber, is a big advocate of this as well. There are plenty of ways to get protein from plants that
many people overestimate the amount they need.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yes. There are lots of, I don't want to call them meatheads necessarily, but there are lots of, very ardent bodybuilders that are eating, almost as much as 2 grams per pound of their body weight, which is insane. That's way too much protein to get. Protect your kidneys, everybody. Right. Don't eat that much protein. But yeah. So there's plenty that you can get from plant-based sources. And I think you said it best. There just needs to be some major changes made on the national level. But there are lots of small things that governments can do. There are lots of small things individuals can do to foster our planet better.
I'm always kind of fascinated when I hear about like, an actor
who needs to do it.
I'm sorry, my apologies.
No, go ahead.
No, I agree. We need to do as much as we can to make that happen.
I'm always fascinated when I hear about an actor who like was almost cast in a certain role, like maybe they chose a different, pilot or something like that. Have you ever had any run-ins like that where you were almost in, Batman or something like that, or a different, TV series?
No, I've been very lucky to get all the parts. Oh, wait, no, that's not true. The series St. Elsewhere, the part that I wanted was called Dr. Peter White. It was played by an actor named Terrence Knox.
Oh, yeah.
The character Peter White was a regular character, and I went in and auditioned for that. I didn't get it. So then they threw me a bone and said, well, we like the way you read, though, and you're not right for Peter White, but you'll play this character if you wanted Ehrlich. He's in like maybe an episode or two. I went, great. To be in just an episode or two of this fine show, I'll happily do it. And then Ehrlich, they started writing for it more and more. It became 3 or 4 episodes and 6, and it became a series regular. And it was one of the more prominent characters in the show. And it started as a much lesser character. So I got very lucky I didn't play the part of Peter White. They killed that character off in the second or third year, I think.
Yeah, spoilers.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that worked out. Spoilers.
Well, I always give spoilers when I do the live tweeting. I know the show is 40 years old or whatever, but but yeah, I was gonna say, it's kind of a good thing you didn't get that part. He has a lot of problems with his wife early on too. Anyway, we'll go into the lore of St. Elsewhere. I wanted to say too before we before we kind of get off of or move on to something else, because we were talking about environmental issues and everything. I've noticed that obviously you're a very strong and vocal advocate for the environment, for those kind of causes, but you don't often, and almost none that I could see, really kind of talk politics, in specific or in the nitty gritty. One of my another person that I kind of admire, Stephen King. So no offense to him, but basically every day, because I follow him too. Basically every day he's got something new to say about Trump and everything. But I've noticed that you really don't do that. I have to imagine that's a conscious choice to kind of not talk about, like those issues or every kind of issue that comes up.
Politicize it, because it's not a political issue in my opinion.
No, the environment's not, for sure. But that's got to be a conscious choice, right?
I try to be very inclusive of everybody, as an actor and as a guy that's promoting green technology.
Mm-hmm.
I really learned all my environmental ethics from my father, who was a Republican, and I'm not a Republican, but he was, and he was a conservative that liked to conserve. He had lived through the Great Depression. He was the son of Irish immigrants. Simply turned off the lights. We turned off the water. We saved string. We saved tinfoil. We did everything we could to get by. And so he died within a few days of the first Earth Day. And I did a lot of what I did early on to honor him. And it shouldn't be a partisan issue. It's something we should do for our kids and grandkids and for ourselves, whatever years we have left, and we live in a world that has some measure of sustainability and beauty to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, because even with the current COVID-19 outbreak, I've read reports that people who live in areas with more air pollution are more susceptible to it. I mean, it's not, in any way a pollution.
No, it's a human issue. And it always, unfortunately, money can make things political issues that shouldn't be political issues. But yeah, it obviously it shouldn't be. It's humanity's issue. But yeah, I thought that was, interesting.
This is kind of a weird question. You mentioned Dax Shepard earlier. Dax is kind of a taller actor, and you're even taller than him. Do you ever feel that you have a different experience, like, certain roles you just can't get because the other actors? I mean, in general, from what I've seen, actors seem to be kind of shorter than average. I mean, is it a weird kind of, encounters in that?
I always played kind of the goofy guy from the first part, kind of an oddball, tall, geeky character. My Three Sons was my first job, and there was a height issue in the story of that first day in show business that I worked, and they made a lot about, gangly and clumsy Ehrlich, and so it was something that, helped me to be a character actor. There was a time I probably wanted to be a leading man. I gave that dream up years ago because I realized it was better for me to be a character actor. With a character actor status, you can work your whole life. You're a leading man. You're hot. You're cold. He's not a leading man anymore because he's gotten old or whatever other changes have occurred. So I sought out being a character actor like my father, and I got lucky to be so, and the height only enhanced that.
Do you think that, because it occurs to me, like you said, character actor, star, those the difference between those two. I wonder. This is just kind of off the top of my head, but it seems to me that the days of a Tom Cruise, like a big signature star or whatever, seem to kind of be going away. People, I think, seem to be turning more towards character actors, and I don't know if it's because of the public
More focus on the scripts and that sort of thing, maybe.
Yeah, if the public likes to see people embody characters more, because even larger stars like Tom Hanks, obviously is is a star, and people will tune in to see his movies, in part because he's in it. But I think he gets into his characters the way character actor would. It seems like the days of like watch Tom Cruise, like do all these death-defying things. Obviously, it's still there, but I think that's slowly going away, and people are going more towards character actors. Do you see the same thing, or do you think that that there's still a great delineation between the two?
There'll always be a kind of leading man category of some form or another. It doesn't have to be the handsome traditional leading man.
Mm-hmm.
I think people like very talented people like Daniel Day-Lewis and Joaquin Phoenix and people like that, are always going to have a lot to, Elizabeth Moss, women like that, Meryl Streep, people who are that talented are going to always, have those top parts in movies, but they are, besides being leading men and leading women, they're certainly in that category. They're also character actors, each and every one of them. So I say yes to what you just proposed, but also they get to be two things. They get to be a character actor and a leading man, and a character actor and a leading woman. I think you need to be both.
Are you currently like watching or following any series that people might more people should know about, like an underrated, maybe a series or a film you've recently seen, like anything that you think is kind of a sleeper that no one's really aware of?
The shows that I watch are quite popular. I certainly, as we've discussed, I like Better Call Saul. I love the show I'm in. I just literally like watching the show I'm in, Bless This Mess. I really liked Ozark. Now, I think that's kind of a hit.
Mm-hmm.
It deserves to be. It's a wonderful, wonderful show. So I like that show. And what else do I like? There's some great shows out there, and I really think, the golden age of television was when my dad was working at TV with people like Sidney Lumet, Patty Chayefsky, and people like that. That's the golden age of television. This is the platinum age of television. Really is an extraordinary time.
Yeah,
there's a lot of amazing shows even currently. I can't watch them all. My wife watches Ozarks. I couldn't get into it. I might give it another try. I like Justin Bateman. Did you ever watch the show Justified with Timothy Olyphant? That was a really good one too. I thought I like him as
Mike.
Yeah, I really like that. My friend.
Sorry.
Justified. My friend Jerry Burns was in that. He's just fantastic.
Yeah, that's just an amazing. I'm a huge, as we mentioned earlier, Jackie Brown. I'm a huge Elmore Leonard fan, so that's just like perfect for me. Every part of that show.
I had the over under on you mentioning Justified at 40 minutes, so I guess we went over. So good for you, Mike.
Oh, speaking of, are we okay on time, Ed? Do you need to go, or are you getting tired of us yet?
I've got to go. Actually, my daughter's been beckoning to me. I have to go have dinner with my daughter, but I've loved talking to you guys. Let's do it again sometime. It's been a real treat.
Absolutely.
We really appreciate your time. Very, very generous of you. Thank you so much.
You have an open invitation anytime, sir, obviously. Thank
you, Mark. Thank you, Mike, both.
Have a great day, and thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, you really made Mark's year. He just he loves you.
Yeah.
Enjoy, guys. Thanks again.
All right. Have a good night.
Take care. Stay safe.
Bye.
All right. Well, that was Ed Begley Jr. Mike, what did you think? I think that went pretty well.
He was so nice of him to spend so much time with us. I mean, he didn't even mention he needed to go. We had to ask him.
Right.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting person. He's been above and ahead of the curve on the environmental issues. Like you mentioned, 1970, he was already concerned about vegetarianism, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
He's in so many shows that we like. Like his IMDb is a list of your favorite shows, essentially. Yeah, I know this is this just made your decade pop.
Oh yeah. I was very excited. So I don't know if I would necessarily call this a celebrity diss. I mean, it's a win. But I don't know if the way it went was like when we did the celebrity diss. Obviously, Josie Lawrence was the only one that even responded to us prior to this. I basically just someone was talking about him for some reason, I don't remember why, and I responded and he liked the response that I gave, so I just tweeted at him and asked if he wanted to be on the show, and then, we basically just went from there, and so I don't know if I don't know if I'd consider it the same thing, the segment that we used to do, but if it is, this is obviously the biggest win for it.
No, it's not a diss, so it doesn't count. Yeah, such a humble guy. I mean, he keeps complimenting everybody else. He's an amazing actor himself. Mm-hmm. I mean, if he's in something, it's good. Essentially, is how it works. Yeah, basically, yes. Yeah, basically anything he's in like you said, is very good. And he just very, very gracious with his time and everything. And check out his daughter, Hayden, I believe her name is. There's a video on at Ed Begley Jr. on Twitter of her playing the Jason Mraz song "I'm Yours" to him around Earth Day, and him kind of choking up. It's very sweet. It's for anyone that's got daughters like us. It's a very sweet moment, and she's very talented. So check her out too. Must run the family. Absolutely. Oh, yeah, his dad won an Academy Award for Sweet Bird of Youth, too. I didn't even mention that. I assumed it was, 12 Angry Jurors or 12 Angry Men? I don't know. 12 Angry Men, yeah. He was juror number 10 in 12 Angry Men. Yeah, Ed Begley Sr. also very talented. That's another thing that people sleep. People should watch that movie. That's an amazing movie. Great movie, yeah, absolutely. And rent Transylvania 65000 with Ed Begley Jr. and Jeff Goldblum. I was going to use that one for the IMDb game, but there was almost nothing in there. When he got She-Devil from a woman blows up a house. I mean, that's pretty damn good recall from
like 89 was what, 30 years ago, 31 years ago, 31 years ago.
He's been in literally like over 100, different things. I mean, that's very good recall.
Absolutely. But that is our show for the day. Great conversation with Ed Begley Jr. He said he'll come back whenever, so I still have his contact information. Maybe I'll try to get him back at some point. Maybe if he's on Better Call Saul again, we'll talk to him. But anyway, that is our show for the week. Thank you to Ed Begley Jr. for joining us. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, follow him on Twitter. Very gregarious guy in there too. He's I follow. Does he have a website that you know about?
I'm not sure. I don't think so, but he does on Twitter. I noticed because I kind of
stalk him.
No, I looked at his at his like tweets and replies and stuff like that. He replies to quite a few people, so he's obviously very generous with his time and everything. Obviously. You can go to here we go, BegleyLiving.com, BEGLEY living.com. That's it basically kind of shows how he and his wife Rochelle Carson live, because he has, I think there's something he pays like $20 a year for his electricity bill or something like that.
I don't doubt that. I mean, if you really if you live in the right area and all that stuff, and you seriously put time to it, you could I had someone I worked with, they got like all new weather sealed windows and stuff, and then they were so good at insulating the house that they're in Michigan in the summer the electricity bill was like $20.
Oh my gosh, that's outstanding. But yeah. So, BegleyLiving.com, check that out, and do something.
Try. Do some small thing. Change your light bulbs. You'll save money.
Yep.
They're better for the environment. They last longer. I mean, it's a lot of the stuff helps you out.
Yeah, exactly.
And all of it helps, the environment, which is a win for those of you who are confused on the issue.
Right. But we will see you next week. Bye.
See you next time.